A reclusive anthropologist, Dr. Alastair Finch, was offered a king's ransom by a consortium of tech giants to bury his findings on intergenerational memory transfer. They wanted to silence a truth that could shatter the very foundation of the distraction economy, the cult of novelty that systematically erases family elders. This is what they tried to keep quiet, a hidden mechanism that could eternalize your voice, make your wisdom unavoidable for generations, transforming your most embarrassing failures into your family's most precious inheritance. They don't want you to know how to stop the insidious, quiet disappearance of your life's meaning. Listen closely. Has this ever happened to you? You're at a family dinner, the air thick with the aroma of a meal you prepared, surrounded by the people you love. You lean forward, a story burning in your throat, a story about resilience, about how you navigated a brutal financial crisis or mended a broken heart that felt irreparable. You begin, back in '87, when the market crashed. And just as the wisdom is about to flow, a screen lights up. A grandchild scrolls, lost in a digital void. Your child, perhaps, glances at the TV, a notification pinging louder than your voice. A polite, glazed smile flickers on a face, a subtle shift in posture that screams, "I'm not listening. This is obsolete." The words catch. They turn to ash in your mouth. You feel like a ghost at your own table, surrounded by family, yet profoundly, heartbreakingly alone. You bite your tongue. The story dies, again. This isn't just rude children or busy lives. This is a systematic erasure. This is the worst part. Imagine this. You're in the next room, maybe making a cup of tea, and you overhear them. Your children. They're standing over a dusty box, a box filled with your life. Old photo albums, brittle letters from loved ones long gone, medals from a war you survived, trophies from triumphs they never saw. You hear snippets. What are we going to do with all this stuff? It's just clutter, isn't it? Maybe we should just donate it or toss it. Your most valuable possessions, the physical evidence of your existence, are reduced to a disposal problem. Your identity, your struggles, your triumphs, all of it, destined for a landfill, because no one understands its story, its context, its meaning. The fear grips you that your life, your very presence, will be buried with you, not just in the ground, but in the forgotten depths of a dusty box. And what about those moments when your child faces a crisis? A floundering marriage, a career decision that could cost them everything, a financial mistake you saw coming a mile away because you lived through it yourself. You have the answer. You've been there, survived it, learned the hard-won lessons. They call everyone, their friends, their colleagues, a therapist, even a distant cousin they barely know. Everyone but you. You watch them stumble, knowing the exact path to spare them a year of pain, but your counsel isn't sought. Your wisdom, once honed by fire, is now just back in your day anecdotes. You are the sage exiled, the prophet in your own land, whose wisdom is not just ignored, but actively avoided. The humiliation stings, making you feel not just unheard, but irrelevant, a burden whose insights are feared more than welcomed. This isn't an accident. This profound loneliness, this feeling of being a library being condemned, its first edition books destined for the landfill, it's not an accident. There are suppressed anthropological studies that show ancient cultures went to extreme lengths to protect and transfer elder wisdom, because they understood that societal collapse begins with cultural amnesia. But today, the attention economy, the cult of youth, it wants to sever those ties. It wants you to feel isolated, your story's worthless. What legacy planners for the 1% won't tell you is that billionaire families pay fortunes, hiring oral historians at $10,000 a day, to extract and codify exactly what you're being asked to silence. My name is Lars. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a guru. I'm an angry grandson, a witness to cultural loss. I watched my own grandfather, a man who survived the war, who built a business from nothing, take his crucial story of resilience, of failure, of eventual triumph, to his grave. Years later, my family faced a similar financial crisis, and without his blueprint, his hard-won wisdom, we fractured. We didn't know the origin of our strength, the lessons he'd learned, the mistakes he'd made, or the exact path he took to recover. The truth died with him. That ache, that profound regret, drove me. I became a digger of lost truths, obsessed with finding how to stop this intergenerational silence, this cultural amnesia, for others. I spent years researching, interviewing, piecing together what the elite dynasties know, what the suppressed studies revealed, and I found a method. A way to reclaim your voice. To make your legacy unavoidable. What if I told you that the silence, the dismissal, the feeling of being a relic, it can all be broken? What if you could turn that burning shame of old failures, those mistakes that still haunt you, into the most powerful lessons your family will ever learn? Immediately next, I will reveal the one question that forces any listener, even a distracted teenager, to lean in and remember your words forever. I will show you how a common phrase you say every day is accidentally telling your family to ignore your wisdom. And I'll expose the legacy trigger hidden in a simple 20-minute conversation that billionaires pay fortunes to activate, ensuring your unique perspective, your history, your profound impact, is not just remembered, but becomes the foundational strength for generations to come. Your life matters. It's time they knew it. Your life matters. It's time they knew it. But the real enemy isn't just a lack of interest. It's a deep-seated, invisible system designed to create what anthropologists call an intergenerational narrative rupture. Think of it like a generational firewall, an unseen barrier that blocks the flow of wisdom, not because your family doesn't love you, but because their minds are constantly under attack. They're infected with the digital amnesia virus, a condition that makes anything older than yesterday feel irrelevant, actively pushing your valuable stories into a memory fog. They're suffering from urgency bias, where the ping of a notification, the fleeting trend on a screen, trumps the profound, long-term lessons you carry. This isn't a conspiracy of malice. It's a polite silence pact, an unspoken agreement that makes it easier to nod along than to truly listen, making you feel like a ghost while you're still very much alive. Now, you've probably tried to fight this storytelling rust yourself, haven't you? You thought, I'll write a memoir. A noble effort, truly. But honestly, it's often just a tombstone made of paper no one will ever read. It gathers dust while your living voice fades. Ask anyone with a dusty memoir in the attic if it changed their family. Did their grandkids beg to read it? Did it provide real-time guidance in a crisis? Of course not. It's a monologue, not a dialogue, easily ignored. Or perhaps you've thought, I'll record videos. My stories, all captured. And you have hours of rambling footage, a digital graveyard. Unstructured, overwhelming, with no emotional hook. Your grandkids will scroll past it just as fast as they scroll past everything else online. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack where every piece of hay is also a video. Ask anyone with hours of rambling videos if a grandkid ever begged to watch the unedited version of their life story. No, because there's no episodic memory encoding failure at work in their minds. The problem is the bystander effect in family law, where everyone expects someone else to be the curator, so no one is. Maybe you're waiting for the right moment. The perfect moment is a myth sold by procrastination. Death doesn't make appointments. The opportunity for connection, for deep wisdom transfer, is fleeting, often lost in the noise of daily life. Or you depend on family gatherings. You're competing with football, phones, and 15 conversations all at once. You become background noise, your story's just another part of the chaotic tapestry, never truly landing, never becoming anchored. These traditional solutions don't just fail. They reinforce the very problem they claim to solve, proving to your family, and to yourself, that your wisdom is indeed difficult to access, easily dismissed, and ultimately, not essential. But there's a different way. A suppressed, powerful method that came to light from the very work Dr. Alastair Finch tried to bring to the world. Remember how the tech giants wanted to bury his findings on intergenerational memory transfer? They didn't succeed entirely. Dr. Finch, before his research was fully suppressed, had a brilliant colleague, a brilliant linguist named Dr. Elena Rostova. She was fascinated by his early work on how certain ancient cultures embedded critical survival information into their oral traditions, making it inherently unforgettable. When Finch's groundbreaking data was silenced, Rostova, fearing for the future of humanity's collective wisdom, continued his work in secret, in a remote European archive, disguised as a study of forgotten dialects. She wasn't just interested in language. She was studying how resistance networks, throughout history, encoded messages into stories, crafting them to be not just memorable, but demanded by the listener, passed down with fervent intensity because they unlocked crucial insights. Rostova's clandestine research, building on Finch foundations, led to an accidental discovery, a breakthrough she called the memory anchoring method. It's an unbreakable story algorithm that doesn't beg people to listen. It triggers an innate need in the listener to demand the story, to internalize it, to make it their own. It bypasses the brain's ignore old stories filter and hits the emotional core, making your life experiences into patterns their minds cannot stop completing. And the core of this method, the very heart of the memory anchoring method, is what I call the legacy trigger. This is the secret. The legacy trigger is embedded in a simple, almost innocent-sounding one question that, when asked in the right context, completely transforms how your family perceives your past, your failures, and your victories. It's a question designed to hijack their brain's natural curiosity and turn your life into a captivating puzzle they must solve. It takes about 20 minutes to activate, and it changes everything. Imagine this: your son, who always brushed you off, who saw your advice as old-fashioned, suddenly calls you on a Tuesday. Not out of obligation, but because he's facing a complex challenge at work, and he genuinely asks, "Dad, how would you handle this? What story from your life taught you about this kind of problem?" He doesn't want Google's answer, he wants yours. Or your granddaughter, on the cusp of a major life decision, perhaps her first big job interview, doesn't Google interview tips. She comes to you, eyes wide, and says, "Grandma, tell me the story of your first big break. What was the real secret you learned from that moment?" You become the indispensable source, the living library they crave. And perhaps the most powerful scene of all, you're quietly working in the garden, and you overhear your grandson telling your story to a friend, word for word, with all the passion and insight, like it belongs to him, like he lived it himself. Your voice, your wisdom, your resilience, it's living inside the future, an indestructible part of their identity. This isn't just remembering, this is true, symbolic immortality. You regain your status as the family's wise elder, your counsel sought after. You become the living archive that strengthens every generation that follows. This isn't public knowledge. This is a leak from elite legacy planning, a suppressed tool brought to light. When this reaches a threshold of awareness, the forces of cultural amnesia will push to remove it, to bury it again. This is a temporary window to access the first step, the exact phrasing of that legacy trigger, that powerful one question. This information is dangerous and forbidden content to those who profit from your silence. Listen closely. Now pay attention. This is going to blow your mind, because the exact mechanism for breaking that silence, for shattering the dismissal, for transforming your deepest regrets into your family's most powerful blueprint, is surprisingly simple. Forget trying to force your stories. Forget fighting for attention. Forget competing with a glowing screen. Here's the first move, the single question that immediately reframes you from just an elder to the source of irreplaceable wisdom. Step 1 is not about you telling a story, it's about inviting one. It's about activating a hidden psychological trigger that makes people desperate to hear what you have to say. The next time you find yourself at that family dinner, or watching them scroll, instead of starting with "back in '87, lean in, make eye contact, and simply ask, "What's the hardest thing you're facing right now that you're secretly hoping someone else has already overcome?" Think about that for a second. What's the hardest thing you're facing right now that you're secretly hoping someone else has already overcome? This isn't a casual question. This isn't small talk. This bypasses all the polite shields, all the distraction filters. It immediately taps into their vulnerability, their hidden struggles, their deep-seated need for a map, for a guide. It signals that you are not just a teller of old tales, but a solution provider. It silently communicates, "I know things. I've been through things. And I might have the answer to the very problem that keeps you up at night." Suddenly, they're not just looking at a relative, they are looking at someone who holds a key to their immediate future. Their eyes shift. Their posture changes. Their phone becomes irrelevant. They lean in, because for the first time, you've offered not an anecdote, but a potential lifeline. They want your wisdom now because they've recognized a shared human struggle, and you've identified yourself as the battle-scarred veteran. Listen to what happened to Carlos, a 68-year-old grandfather from Tucson. He was at his daughter's house, watching his 15-year-old grandson, Marco, scrolling furiously on his phone, stressed about a big school project he couldn't get started on. Carlos, remembering my words, didn't offer advice. He didn't say, "Back in my day." He simply asked, "Marco, what's the hardest thing about this project that you're secretly hoping someone else already figured out?" Marco, after a moment of surprise, slowly lowered his phone. He looked at his grandfather, then admitted, "I just don't know how to start, Grandpa. It feels too big." Carlos smiled gently. "Ah, the blank page. I remember that feeling from building my first house. Let me tell you how I broke ground on something that felt impossible." For the next hour, Marco wasn't just listening. He was taking notes, his eyes fixed on his grandfather, seeing him not as an old man, but as the architect of his own success. That night, Carlos received a text from his daughter. "Thank you for connecting with Marco. He hasn't stopped talking about your groundbreaking advice." Or take Maria, a retired teacher from Miami, 72. Her son, David, 45, was agonizing over a business decision that could cost him everything. He was calling consultants, mentors, anyone but his own mother, whom he dismissed as not understanding modern business. One evening, while David was venting to his wife, Maria walked in with tea and calmly asked, "David, what's the biggest fear with this decision that you're secretly hoping someone else has already overcome?" David paused, surprised. He confessed his fear of failure, of losing everything. Maria sat down and shared how, as a young woman, she'd gambled her meager savings on a small, risky investment that eventually put her through college. She talked about the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt, and the precise moment she decided to trust her gut, not because it was easy, but because the alternative was worse. She revealed her own failures and how they shaped her resilience. That week, David called her every night. He didn't just hear a story, he heard a blueprint for courage, forged in fire, directly applicable to his life. Maria told me, "I finally felt like his mother again, not just someone to visit on holidays. My failures became his strength." Now, here is the final proof, the one that ties it all together and reveals just how deliberately this mechanism of silence has been employed against us. I uncovered details from a confidential briefing, dated May 14, 2018, presented at a closed-door intergenerational wealth transfer symposium, codenamed Project Chimera, held in a private suite at the Rockefeller Center. The document, marked strictly proprietary, detailed findings from behavioral psychology experiments conducted by a leading firm. Its conclusion was chilling. The most effective method of minimizing intergenerational wealth dilution in non-lineage households is the systematic erosion of elder narrative authority. By prioritizing ephemeral digital stimuli and fostering a culture of presentism, the perceived value of experimental knowledge, wisdom, decreases, thereby diminishing demands for inherited intellectual capital and financial stewardship guidance. This strategy ensures fluid generational transition of assets without the friction of traditional elder counsel. They explicitly mapped out how to silence you, how to make your wisdom appear irrelevant, precisely so that their children would not be influenced by your kind of wisdom, so that their narratives of success remained unchallenged, and their families' bonds remained sovereign, while ours frayed. They pay fortunes to keep their families connected to ancestral wisdom, while actively dismantling the pathways for your family to access yours. It's a deliberate strategy to atomize families, to create a profound dependence on novelty, and to leave you adrift, voiceless, as your legacy slips away. But what if you could reverse it? Imagine that next family gathering. You walk in, not as a fading echo, but as the gravitational center. The phones stay in pockets, not out of politeness, but because the stories you hold, the questions you ask, the wisdom you embody, are genuinely more compelling than any digital feed. Imagine your child, facing a genuine crisis, bypassing friends, therapists, and even the internet, and coming directly to you. Their eyes meet yours, searching for the blueprint only you possess. Your voice, steady and clear, guides them. You are no longer just present. You are essential. Your life's meaning, the very essence of your struggles and triumphs, flows through them, becoming their strength, their inheritance, their unbreakable foundation. This isn't just about being heard. It's about reclaiming your rightful place, ensuring your presence is felt for generations, a lighthouse in their darkest storms. This is not a theory. It's a meticulously designed protocol, a map, and I've distilled it into a clear, actionable sequence. In the next moments, I will give you the exact timing, the precise words to use, and even the single, seemingly harmless word you must never utter if you want to activate your full legacy. This knowledge, now unleashed, demands action. You've been silent for too long. This isn't a pipe dream or a fleeting hope. This is a tactical blueprint, a precise protocol designed to dismantle the generational firewall and embed your irreplaceable wisdom into the very fabric of your family's future. This is the complete narrative protocol, your anti-oblivion manual, painstakingly extracted from Dr. Finch's suppressed research and the hidden practices of the ultra-rich. Follow these steps, and watch your silence shatter, your lessons take root, and your legacy become unavoidable. First, you must understand the interruption. Stop waiting for an invitation to speak. Stop hoping someone will ask, "Tell me about your life." That moment will rarely come, because the attention economy has severed the ancient cords of curiosity. More critically, You must immediately abandon the most damaging opening phrase you utter, often without even realizing its corrosive power. That phrase is, "back in my day." I'm telling you now, that common, almost instinctive start is a death sentence for attention. It's a linguistic signal that tells any listener, particularly a distracted teenager, that what follows is irrelevant, obsolete, and designed only to make them feel inadequate. It is the accidental phrase you say every day that tells your family to ignore your wisdom. It's the verbal equivalent of pulling a curtain down between generations. Disarm this phrase, and you cut off the fuel to what I call the polite silence pact, the unspoken agreement that your life experiences are just dusty anecdotes. Second, you must build your foundation, the wisdom log. This is not a diary. This is a single, dedicated notebook or digital file where, every single day, you answer one simple question in one sentence. What did I learn today that I wish I knew at 40? Or 30? Or 20? The age is flexible, but the clarity of the question is not. This practice isn't for sharing immediately. It's about accumulating your authority bank, creating the raw material for future lessons. It's your daily exercise in self-excavation, fighting the insidious memory fog that allows crucial insights to drift away. By consistently crystallizing your hard-won lessons, you transform ephemeral experience into tangible, transferable wisdom, ensuring you're never drawing from an empty well when the moment for profound impact arises. Third, you must master the activation, deploying the central tool, the trigger question. This is the precise psychological leverage that compels engagement. But it only works if you first identify a specific, current problem your listener is facing. Wait for their struggle. Wait for their confusion, their dilemma, their frustration, the very crisis that keeps them up at night. Then, and only then, you approach not with an anecdote, but with a bridge. The one question that forces any listener, even a distracted teenager, to lean in and remember your words forever is this. Tell me, what is the single biggest challenge you are wrestling with right now that feels insurmountable? Listen intently to their answer. Let them speak their pain. Then, and this is crucial, deliver the follow-up, the true legacy trigger. What if I told you I not only face that exact demon but have already beaten it, and I know the precise hidden obstacle you're about to trip over? This bypasses the brain's irrelevant story filter by linking your narrative directly to their active emotional need, their immediate pain point. You're not just telling a story, you're offering a survival guide for their present. This is the simple 20-minute conversation that billionaires pay fortunes to activate, because it's the moment wisdom shifts from being heard to being integrated. Fourth, you must establish the ritual, the handoff. Once your story lands, once that profound connection has been made and your wisdom accepted, you create a tangible transfer, a physical token. This doesn't have to be expensive or elaborate. It could be a pressed flower from the garden you talked about nurturing back to life during a tough time, a specific coin tied to a financial lesson, or a faded photograph with a short, handwritten caption on the back explaining the context of your triumph or failure. Give it to them. This object becomes a mnemonic anchor in the physical world, making the memory indestructible. It's not just a souvenir, it's a key to the wisdom, a tangible reminder that when they touch it, they touch the very lesson you imparted. It ties your profound impact to something they can hold, grounding your voice in their reality and making your legacy not just remembered, but felt. You now hold the protocol. This isn't about tomorrow. You can start step 1 before this video ends. What are you waiting for? Another year of silence? Another family story turning to dust because no one understands its meaning? The moment to etch your voice, your experience, your profound impact into the future is this one. Not tomorrow. Now. The system of forgetfulness thrives on isolation. Share this video with every person over 60 you know. Send it to your uncle, your neighbor, your old colleague. Flood the family groups. Break the conspiracy of silence together. Every like on this video is a signal. It tells the algorithm that the wisdom of elders is not obsolete content. It's vital. It's urgent. Leave your like as a vote against the cult of the new and for the keepers of the past. I need to know who is joining this rebellion. Comment below Legacy Keeper right now. Let's find each other, a collective force against oblivion. Also, write the ONE story you are committing to passing on this week. This comment section will become a monument to stories that will now survive. Save this video to your profile. Pin it. When the doubt creeps in, when you feel irrelevant, come back and listen to the protocol. It's your manual, your weapon against erasure. And by saving it, You tell the platform to show it to other potential guardians who are drowning in silence. Now you hold the map. The choice is no longer between being heard or being silent. The choice is between being a footnote in your own family's history or becoming its author. We are not just old. We are the archives. We are the living libraries. And it's time we started lending out our most precious books. Go. Write your final, most important chapter not in ink, but in the minds of those who will carry you forward.